Hello and welcome to Stitching with Cindy Bots. Today's project is a table runner. It is done using the quilt as you go method. This table runner is now laying on my sewing table and it is just a bit too long for this table, but that's alright. This is not where it's gonna be when I use it. So here is my table runner. I think it came out quite cute. Now I'm recording on my phone and I am gonna flip it, so bear with me please. Okay, so this table runner was done using the quilt as you go method. I chose to use strips of material that were 1.5 inches wide. I chose to do it as a diagonal, and you can do it as straight horizontal, you could do it as vertical, however you want. So let's talk about how to do this quilt as you go using strips and getting this scrappy look. So let me show you with just another piece of material here that I have. Now for the quilt as you go method, you need a background fabric that will be the outside back of your project. You need some kind of inner fabric. Sometimes I use flannel. If it's going to be a pot holder or something that you're going to use a little bit of, you need some heat resistance, you're going to want to use like a thinsulate. So here we go. So this is just for demonstration purposes. It's just a square. Again, I have my background fabric and I have my batting or middle layer. So what I did for the scrappy look is just make a very long strip of material that I sewed scraps together. I cut the scraps to a 1.5 inch width, varying lengths, and I just made this really super long strip of material, and that gives me my scrappy look without a lot of seams in the actual project. As I go, I'm just doing a very long seam. Now, one of the things I want to mention before I forget is when you're doing a diagonal, you need to be very careful when you sew this seam down that you leave extra fabric. So here where I'm doing the seam, the underneath fabric is done here, but when you fold this over, you really are covering fabric down to here. So please be mindful when you're doing a diagonal not to trim as soon as you're done stitching, because you are going to need longer material to actually cover the base when you flip it over. So all I did was I started at one corner and I laid down a piece. I laid down another piece. Now here is what I did accidentally, is I cut it. And I cut it too short, just like I was talking about. So I just put the next piece on and I got a little bit of a different width on it, but for this demonstration purpose, it can be covered up and move on. So you just fold your piece down and you can press it with an iron, you can finger press it, lay your next strip on it, right face together. To get it all nice and lined up, nice and even, and I use a 1/4 inch seam, sew it down, and press it over. And that's simply how to get this scrappy look to your quilt as you go. And as you can see, it gives you a nice quilted line going diagonal across the project. Again, for placemats, pot holders, table runners, I like it a lot. Now, for some people, you need a quick reminder or a first time learning of how do I get that binding on. So one thing you want to do is remember that to make a long strip of binding, you can add 2 strips together. And this is where I did that. You lay the one strip on top of the other. You sew a diagonal seam, and then you just trim it. Okay, so this is the one strip coming in here, the other strip here, right faces together, sew your diagonal seam, trim and press, and that would give you a nice long piece of material for your binding. Now, people do the connecting at the end of their binding in many different ways. This is the way I do it. I take the end of my binding, I cut it at a diagonal, there's my diagonal, and I fold it over, just fold that over. Then I lay it down. When you do your binding, remember, don't start right at a corner. That will make it so difficult for you. Start a couple inches up or halfway up or something like that, just so that you don't have to worry about doing the corner when you're connecting your final wraparound. So here we are. I left some room here. I did not go right to the end. I started here, came down, sewing to the corner. And, oh, excuse me, turtle. I didn't shut the door before I started recording, and I have some kitty cats who like to join me. So, you sew down to the corner. When you get to the corner, you stop 1/4 of an inch away from the end, and this is our long strip. You're gonna fold it back, fold the part that you did over, and fold this down. Kind of make a nice diagonal there. Line this up nicely. See how that just kind of folds back, and you keep sewing down just like that. And then you can trim this back and fold it over when you do the back. So when you get around to the corner here, what I do, oh my goodness, she's going to be right in this video, isn't she? Isn't she a cute little girl? What I do is I just come around with my, I don't know if this is going to be easy to do, with my binding, and I just lay it inside there, trim it. So I lay it inside there, lay it inside this little pocket area, lay it inside there, and stitch it down. Oh, it's difficult to show you that with her there, but just lay it in there. Yeah, it's better. Lay it in there and stitch it down. Wow, you're such a cute kitty, but you're being right in the camera. Okay, so that is how to stitch that down. Just a little refresher. You know, in the comments you can write that you're curious about learning more about binding there. We'll just cover her up with that. That's so cute. And that is how to make your quilt as you go, scrappy looking. She's so sweet, isn't she? A table runner. Hope you enjoyed the video. If there's something you'd like us to show you, please just make a comment, and I appreciate your time. Thank you so much. Have a great day.